Hey guys, welcome to the webinar on law conducted by Kazob. My name is Advait and I'm the founder of Kazob. So in case you're wondering, basically I'm going to interview three lawyers with like very diverse job profiles, and we just hear from them about their work life, about their college life, etc. Just a couple of instructions. Uh, Below the video, there will be a ask a questions tab. So just send me a hello or something on that tab right now so that I know who all are attending the webinar. So this will help, in case I'm going to conduct the same webinar again, I know that you guys have already attended the webinar. Okay, so just send me a hi or a hello on the ask a questions tab. So yeah, so let's jump right into it. Let's start with introductions. Anandini, can you introduce yourself and then we'll move on?
Yeah, hi. So my name is Anandini Fernandez. I'm a lawyer practicing criminal law. I did the 5-year course from Government Law College, Mumbai, and before that I did science at Xavier's. Yeah, so that's me.
Um, Janvi, can you talk about yourself?
Okay. Hi, my name is Janvi Shetty. Currently I work with Sony Music as their legal consultant. I did the 5-year law course at Government Law College as well. And before that, I was working with DSK Legal, and I did a lot of corporate law work over there.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot. And you, Param, can you talk about yourself?
Sure. Hi. My name is Param. Like Janvi and Nandini, I am also from Government Law College. I worked at several law firms and currently I'm an independent legal consultant working in the real estate industry. So that's pretty much it.
Okay, cool. That's great. So guys, I haven't received any hellos from you all, so like just do that. And also, anytime during the webinar, if you all have any question, please feel free to ask. Don't wait for the end of the webinar to ask your questions. Okay. So my first question is that a lot of people are watching shows like Suits and Boston Legal and stuff like that. So is your life really like what they show on TV? And Nandini, can you start answering?
Okay, so definitely not. Especially because, as I said earlier, I'm a criminal lawyer, and litigation in India is very different from how it is in the States. The most glaring difference is in America, they have a jury system, whereas in India, we have a single judge system or a division bench. So, right off the cuff, there are very glaring differences. Also, in suits, everything happens very quickly, you get results very quickly. In reality, the legal process is far more tedious. So even though you get results, you have to wait a lot longer. So yes, according to me, they're not similar at all.
Okay, cool. Param, can you give your view on the subject?
Sure. So as far as suits and Boston Legal go, the only thing they have got correct is the fact that we wear suits. That's about it.
Okay.
Law, law in reality is quite different from what they show it. A lot of hard work, a lot of groundwork, a lot of paperwork. So TV shows don't exactly capture it.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So Janvi, I think you were lost for a minute. So basically, we were talking about whether the work life of a lawyer is really like what they show on TV. On shows like Boston Legal and Suits. Uh, what do you feel about the subject? Okay, I think Janvi's lost. I mean, we've lost connection with us. We'll just continue. Um, okay, so Anandini, you said you're a criminal lawyer, and Param, you are a legal consultant. So can you guys both individually talk about what you do on a day-to-day basis, and maybe the person who talks second can say uh, how their job profile is different from the other. So Param, can you talk about what you do on a day-to-day basis and what exactly you do?
Sure. So I work for a real estate company currently, and my day-to-day work involves acquiring and selling properties, giving them out on rent, going meeting clients, entering into negotiations, discussions, doing a lot of paperwork, doing a lot of drafting and documentation. Ideally, my day starts at 9:30, 10 in the morning, where we first review the list, all the matters we have for the day. So my job is particularly office oriented, so I don't go to court at all. I stay in my office and I deal with my clients from office itself. So normally the morning is usually a couple of meetings, couple of discussions. Post lunch, it's basically we get started the actual work where we draft the documents, and evening we are just getting a review of the day and basically just trying to close off whatever we have. So basically, it's
Okay.
more of a desk job of sorts, but we get a lot of interaction with clients and the other side when it comes to negotiation and discussions.
Okay. Okay. So, with what kind of people do you have to interact with?
In my line, I have to deal with my clients who usually are big corporate giants. So basically,
Okay.
directors, shareholders, and then their staff, that is architects, the sales teams, and then I have to deal with their clients on the other side, and they are lawyers. So I'm dealing
Okay.
with pretty
Okay.
much everyone from a director to a lawyer.
Okay. Awesome. Um, Anandini, can you talk about your work life and maybe highlight how your work life is different from Param's?
Sure. So, like Param mentioned, he doesn't get to court very often. As I'm a litigation lawyer, I spend most of my time in court. So my morning begins with the court hours. Court hours are typically from 11 to 2, and then there's a lunch break from 2 to 2:45, and then court resumes from 2:45 to 5 o'clock. So I spend all those hours in court. In addition, I'm not in one specific court, depending on where my matter is, whether it's in the lower courts or the sessions court or the high court, that's where I spend my day. So my desk job, so to speak, only starts after that, where I meet with clients, where I draft the documents that I want to present in court. Many a times after court, I also have to visit police stations. For example, if one of my client has been summoned to the police station, or if I want to go and lodge a complaint for a client, so often in the week I would have to visit various police stations as well. So yes, my job is very on the go. It's not a desk job at all. There's no comfy office and air conditioning. It's out there in the courts, but it's very exciting.
Okay. Okay. Uh, Janvi, what about you? Can you talk about what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Okay, so my job is primarily a desk job as well. What we do is every morning, because our clients, when you're working in-house, your clients are the people who you work with. So you get a bucket load of emails every single day with different contracts that you need to draft. So it's basically drafting, it's very heavy drafting contract oriented. You get a brief from your client or your colleagues, and you pick that up and you draft it. There's a lot of negotiations that happens in the day as well, uh, and there is a bit of litigation as well. So even though you're giving the brief out to a counsel, most in-house legal consultants these days are doing the paperwork themselves. So there is a lot to learn in-house as well.
Okay. Okay. So, a couple of things you spoke about drafting and you spoke about litigation. Can you just like talk about what those two terms mean?
So drafting is the term that we use when you need to, in simple words, write out your document. When you need it's in very layman terms, it's putting the story out. So it's talking about what you need the contract for, how much money is going into it, who is exchanging what are your roles and responsibilities, how you would be protecting each other, that would be your indemnities and warranties, and if when either party needs to exit the contract, then that termination clause. So drafting basically includes telling your story about why two parties are entering into a contract. What was the second question that you asked me, Advait?
The second question was, what do you mean by litigation?
So litigation is the terminology that we use when a matter goes to court. So if there is a dispute over the story that you've written, that is your contract, over your draft, or litigation.
Hello?
Yes, Advait?
Oh,
Could I be heard?
yeah. Okay, thanks a lot. So,
Yeah.
Anandini and Janvi, I asked this question to Param. What kind of people do you have to interact with on a day-to-day basis? Maybe Janvi, you can um, continue from where you kicked off.
Okay, so like I said before, on a day-to-day basis, the people that I interact with are people in my company. Then on the phone, if I need to negotiate a contract, I'm usually dealing with the in-house or the business affairs team of the opposite side. Very rarely do I need to interact with lawyers from law firms negotiating contracts. It's usually
Okay.
in-house lawyers as well. Then if I have a matter which has gone into litigation, then I deal with my lawyers, who will be briefing the counsel that will be taking up the matter. So these are
Okay.
the three different kinds of people that I interact with on a daily basis.
Okay. Cool. Anandini, can you talk about what kind of people you interact with?
Okay, so like when I was talking about what my day to day is like, on a daily basis, I interact with judges because every day when you go to court, your matter comes up before a magistrate or a sessions judge or a high court judge. So you interact with judges, and because you're in court, you end up interacting with all the court staff, which are clerks and registrars and just the peons as well.
Okay.
Aside from that, I have my colleagues who I interact with, and I work in a chamber. So I work with the senior lawyer, so I have to interact with him as well. In addition, I have to interact with the police. All criminal matters start at a police station, so I definitely have to interact with the police on a daily basis. Then, like Janvi and Param, I have to interact with my clients as well because no one knows their case better than a client. So I have to rely on the clients for giving me all the information that I need to represent them in the best way that I can. Aside from that, if I ever get a matter that I feel is very serious or needs a more senior person to deal with it, then I have to interact with senior counsels and brief them on the matter because I myself am still a junior counsel.
Okay. So, Anandini, this question is especially to you.
Right.
That like being a girl, like, do you feel unsafe? Like when you are dealing with the police station and like with criminals and stuff like that. Do you feel unsafe?
Um, Personally, I've never felt unsafe in my job. We have had interns in the chamber who have been in tears at the end of the day or who have not felt comfortable. This is primarily because when you're going to criminal courts, unless the accused person is still in jail, in which case they're kept in a more segregated area of the court, if any accused is out on bail, they're probably sitting right behind you or right next to you. And even now, due to human rights awareness, even the accused that are in jail, they're not handcuffed and brought in court. So there's a lot of freedom that's given to them. So this has made quite a few girls who've come into the chamber nervous. But I've never witnessed any untoward incident. I myself have never felt unsafe. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So, for the people who have joined late, let me just give you a recap on who we have on the panel. Okay. First, we have Anandini, who is a criminal lawyer. Then we have Janvi, who works in the legal department of a media and entertainment business. And we have Param, who's a legal consultant with a big construction company. Okay. And the other thing is that like you have a ask a question box just below the video. So if you could just send in a hello, it would be great because that would tell me who is actually attending the webinar, so that the next time when I conduct the same webinar, I won't send you the link for it. Okay, and oh yes, if you have any questions during the webinar, please don't feel shy to ask. Okay, just ask any question you have, and if you can, please direct the question to any particular person, and don't wait for the end of the webinar to ask your questions. Okay, so Janvi, this question is for you. So,
Yeah,
like listening to you all talk about what you all do on a day-to-day basis, would you say
yeah.
that your job is slightly different because you are still working for a company, like even though you're working in the legal department as a lawyer, like for a company, okay,
Yeah.
Nandini and Param are more like your stereotypical lawyers. Like, would you agree with that?
Well, Param does a little bit of the kind of work that I do, but no, it's completely different from what it's like in a law firm.
Okay, okay, great. Okay, so Janvi, can you talk about what made you opt for pursuing a career in law?
So for me, it was more of a it was more of an environmental decision because my sister is a very successful lawyer in one of the best law firms in the country at the moment, and my dad has a degree in law, so it just seemed like a natural progression to do it. It was
Okay,
something that I was familiar with because members of my family were doing it.
okay, okay, cool. Uh, and what about Anandini? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. So, what made you opt for law?
So I don't think I ever opted for law in general. I opted specifically for criminal law. I'm not exactly sure why, but some of the things that influenced me, and maybe some people considering law would find some common ground here, were one, I love to talk and I love to argue. So I was very excited when I found out there was a profession that paid you to do that. Secondly, I've always wanted a job where I felt like I was making change, and like immediate and direct change, which I feel I do as a lawyer, whether it's getting a person out on bail or getting a complaint registered against someone for doing something wrong. I feel like I can directly impact people. So that attracted me to law as well. And also from watching movies like Philadelphia and all, it always gave me the impression that the law was a very noble profession. So I wanted to be associated with something like that.
Okay, cool. And what about you, Param? What made you opt for law?
Okay, so somewhat like Janvi, my family is all lawyers. Everybody on my dad's side are a bunch of lawyers, but that did not influence me, full disclosure. For me, it was basically I was much better at history, civics, and law than I was at all other subjects. I had a passion for reading, I had a passion for books, I had a passion to understand things. So laws seemed the perfect fit. Plus, when I entered law school, I found out that corporate law was what I liked the best at the time, and that just helped my decision.
Okay, okay, thanks. So, Anandini, what do you like and dislike about your job as a criminal lawyer?
Um, okay, so like I mentioned earlier, I feel like I can affect change and make a direct impact on people. So that's probably what I like most about my job, aside from the fact that I get to argue on a daily basis. But the things I don't like about my job are perhaps that many of you might have heard how the judicial system in India is extremely slow. So, like they say, justice is not really denied in our country, but it's severely delayed. And I really hope that by the time I'm in like a matured lawyer, that things like those will change and just the judicial process in India will be a lot more swift.
Okay, cool. And Jani, what about you?
Okay, so what I definitely like about my job is that every day there's a lot of variety to do in the legal aspect. So whatever field you choose, whether it's real estate, whether it's criminal, or even if you want to do corporate or media entertainment, there's so many different things that you get to do every single day. So no 2 days are the same. There's a lot of variety. Things that I don't like about my job. It's extremely focus oriented. Like you cannot miss a thing because even one lapse of judgment, one lapse of focus, and you can be done for. Because when you're drafting, that is like I said, when you're writing your story about what your contract is about, every comma, every word makes a difference. So it's extremely focus oriented,
Okay.
which is extremely challenging. But so yeah, so it demands a lot from you.
Okay. Do you have to travel a lot in your job, Janvi?
Okay, so for my job, I don't have to because now with video conferencing and being able to do uh, calls internationally very easily with Skype, there's no problem at all. So I'm constantly working with a lot of people from the foreign, a lot of people from the legal teams across my company, across the globe. So we get things done through conference calls and video conferencing. So no traveling with my job.
Okay, great. What about you, Param?
I'm sorry, I couldn't catch that.
Do you have to travel a lot for your job?
No, not really. For me, it's a desk job. At most, all our clients come to us, and at the most, I might have to travel to the other side's law firm in the same city. But like Janvi said, thanks to technology, your email, your conferencing, your web chats, everything's made much more simpler.
Okay, okay. And Anandini, what about you?
So when you talk about travel, if you mean intercity, then as of late I've had to do that because my boss is quite a reputed criminal lawyer. So we are getting matters from different states. So then I do in a month have to travel 2 or 3 days, but I tend to travel in the morning and return by night. If you're talking about intra-city travel, then yes, definitely there's a lot of travel because how criminal law works is if you commit a crime, say for example, if you steal something in Dadar, then that would come under the jurisdiction of Dadar police station, which in turn would come under the jurisdiction of the magistrate that sits in Dadar. So the entire city of Bombay is covered by various police stations, various magistrate courts, and depending on where a crime occurs, you either have to go to that particular court to defend your client or to initiate criminal action for your client. So there's a lot of intercity travel, intracity
Okay,
travels.
okay, great. So, did you all study the same thing? Anandini, could you answer that?
Do we all study the same thing? Yeah, primarily because there's not a lot of fluidity or options as far as law school is concerned. And also they believe that, any lawyer should be acquainted with all the law of the land. You do get a little bit of an option in, I think, Janvi Bram can correct me if I'm wrong, but in your fifth year, where
Yes.
there are a bunch of options, and I, for example, would take something like criminology, while there are other options to do with banking and insolvency and stuff. But there's not a lot of fluidity.
Yes.
I think a majority of what we all studied was the same.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. And can you like elaborate? So you like you have like national law schools and you have other law schools. Can you talk about those?
You want me to take this?
Yeah.
Okay, so like you mentioned, I think the top law schools in India are probably the national law schools. You also in each state have government law schools, and you have a couple of private law schools as well. Uh, in terms of how to get into these schools, for most of the private schools and for the government law schools, your HSC or your 12th standard marks is what you use to apply. But a couple of years ago, for the national law schools, there was an exam called the CLAT, which was introduced, which is the Common Law Admissions Test. And some of these national law schools, in addition to the CLAT, also have their own entrance test.
Okay. Okay, great. Um, so how is the college life different in national law schools and other law schools? I'm sure you have friends who are in national law schools. Can you talk about that? Any of you guys?
I
Okay.
think
Okay. Param, you take that.
Uh,
great. So life in a government law college in the same city as opposed to life in a national law school is quite different. In a national law school, you're staying on campus. You don't have a choice as such. You're staying on campus 24/7. Your classes are next to your hostel. Your library is open till late, so you're pretty much on campus the whole day. You get to leave from time to time. In a government law college, in a state law college like the one the three of us went to, we stay at home and then we go to college on a day-to-day basis, and then we are free to do what we want post college hours, which give us the opportunity to intern, to work, to do other activities, and so on and so forth.
okay. Okay, so you spoke about interning. Is that a major part of law college life? Param?
Okay, so while it's optional at some places, it is quite recommended that you should do your internships. If you're studying in Bombay, then you can start interning from the first day of your first year. If you're in a national law school, then they have winter breaks and summer breaks where you can do your internships. Now,
Okay.
as far as it comes to a law school, it doesn't teach you the practical day-to-day knowledge of how to work in a law firm. So your internships are the best source of knowledge for you to catch up
Hmm.
and basically to start quickly once you graduate.
Okay. And Janvi, would you like to elaborate on the role of internships in law college life?
Okay, so I can't emphasize enough how important internships are in helping you identify what it is that you want to do after you graduate. So I'd say that starting from your first year, like if you want to participate in college activities, that's fine. But maybe from your second year, you should start interning and try doing different things, like try doing litigation, work with a family lawyer. If you want to work with a criminal lawyer, if you want to get your hands dirty, try. Like I said, it's like law has so many different varieties to offer. So use that. Do your research, apply to law firms. Every college today has a placement committee, so it's not too difficult to get internships through that. Otherwise, something that I did was I just got my resume ready and I applied at every law firm that I wanted to be a part of. And law firms are receptive to that. Definitely follow up, show that you're consistent, show that you're interested, and it definitely does work out. So internships really do help you identify what it is that you want to do. I'd advise you to do an internship that's more than a month because that's when you really learn. Within a month, you don't really learn that much. So try and do an internship for about 3 months, or if you can get a longer internship, definitely do that.
Okay. Anandini, can you talk about your experience in looking for an internship? Uh, what's the procedure for that? Do you get it out of college or do you have to do your own searching?
So actually, there are various ways in which you can get an internship. One is, of course, if you want to intern with a firm or a specific lawyer and you want to do it yourself, you can always go to the firms and ask them how you can apply, and they'll tell you a person to get in touch with and mail your CV to, and with the covering letter. The same thing applies if you go to an advocate's chamber. All law colleges also have their own internship procedures, and a lot of them have placement weeks which help you get internships or even jobs if you're close to graduating.
Okay.
In addition, if you want to get a judicial internship, for example, that you want to intern with a judge, then the high courts and the Supreme Courts have their own internship procedure as well. So there are various ways in which you can get an internship. As far as my personal experience is concerned, so I now work with a lawyer called Satish Manishinde, and I got an internship with him in my third year of law school through the college placement committee. Prior to that, the internships I got on my own by connecting with people at the law firm, asking them how the internship procedure is there, and then sending the necessary mails and definitely following up, because just sending the mails is not enough. These law firms have way better things to do than pay attention to who wants to intern with them. So you have to follow up. That's the only way you're going to get one.
Okay. Okay, guys. So we have our first question actually. It's from Jigar and it's directed at Anandini.
Okay.
Jigar is asking, you know, is there any moral dilemma involved in your work? You know, because yeah. So like, I guess what he's getting at is that like you are getting criminals out, like
Right.
supposed
Yeah.
criminals out on bail and stuff. So what do you have to say about that?
So this is actually a really common concern. I personally don't have any moral dilemma. Let me explain why. All law in India comes from the Constitution, and the Constitution guarantees that every person will have the right to a legal defense. The logic behind this is perhaps is that if you're guilty of having committed a crime, no matter what kind of legal representation you have, you will eventually have been found guilty and convicted for it. But you still have the right to be defended. So I personally, because I'm just providing a constitutional guarantee, I don't have. any moral dilemma as such. In addition, what people don't know is a lot of the times you can be a criminal lawyer and you can be for the complainant. For example, there's a whole branch of law which deals with check bouncing cases, or there's a whole branch of law that deals with defamation. That is when you say something which defames people, where the law provides for private complaints. So there, the state is not prosecuting, it's a private party which you can represent. So many of the times you get to be for the so-called good guy in the case as well. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay, cool. So we have another question actually. This question is from Shalini, and she's asking what kind of skills do you require to do your job well? Janvi, can you answer that question?
Yes, of course. So, okay, the most important thing that you need is you've really got to like reading, because there's a lot of reading that's involved. You've got to be someone who is really passionate about things face value. You've got to like get motivated, really, and case laws and judgment, because there's going to be something that's been overturned at some point. So just be actually very curious about getting the answer right. The third thing is, you, like I said, you've got to
Janvi,
be able to do this.
Janvi, I'm gonna have to stop you there because we can't hear you clearly.
Right.
So
Okay.
maybe we can come back to you once your internet has come back, or has it come back now? Okay, she signed out. Okay, so Anandini, can you talk about what kind of skills you require to do your job well?
Okay, I think Param and me should both take this because our jobs are so different that we require very different skill sets. I mean, there are some commonalities. So I'll go first and then Param can add to it. So as a litigation lawyer, you have to do a lot of public speaking. You can sometimes be in a court which is completely empty and it's just you and the judge, and sometimes you can be in a court which is full of like the senior most lawyers. So public speaking is very important. You need to do a lot of reading, and this Param will agree with. Like all lawyers, whether it's reading the briefs that your clients are giving you to know the facts of the case well, whether it's reading judgments and case laws to see if there's anything that goes in support of your case. So there's a lot of reading that needs to happen. In addition, I think a lot of common sense, because you have this whole bunch of law that you're aware of, and then you're given the facts of a specific case, and you have to see how best to apply the law to the case in such a way that you can convince the judge that you're in the right. So yeah, a good dose of common sense as well.
Okay. And Param, sorry, I've been ignoring you. Can you talk about what kind of skills you require to do your job well?
Okay, so as far as my job is concerned, since I deal with the biggest of the biggest real estate companies in the country, for me, you require a lot of reading, a lot of patience, an ability to absorb quickly, an ability to react properly. Basically, it's just reading, understanding, and then reacting. So
Okay.
what happens is that when we get a document, we have to read up on all laws immediately. We need to know what laws apply. We need to know what the precedents have been said. We need to know how to go about everything in a quick, steady manner.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Okay. And we have another question that's directed to Param. This question is from Suresh. Usually consultants are people who have a lot of work experience and then they become consultants. Can you talk about how you became a legal consultant?
Uh, Thank you for that. So basically, I started interning from day one in law school. For the first couple of years, I interned with small law firms, got some experience as to what work would actually be like and what fields I would like. For my third, fourth year, I moved on to the bigger law firms, where I got a taste of what a big corporate law firm would be like. And my last year in the High Court, it made me understand how courts would work. So after that, I applied for a job at a mid-sized law firm where I would get the opportunity to work in all fields. So basically, that my experience would not be restricted to one particular field. I would know corporate, I would know litigation, I would know real estate, I would know intellectual property. So
Okay.
that happened for about 4 years, and then I got an opportunity to join this real estate giant, and I took it. And my experience, my internships and my work ex helped a lot to get this.
Okay. Okay. That's awesome. Great.
Thank you.
So, This question is, I guess, for everybody, or like maybe one of you all can answer it. Is that what is the difference between an advocate and a solicitor? Anandini, would you like to answer that?
Okay, so basically, it's that solicitors are advocates, but all advocates are not solicitors. Um, Solicitors basically means you have the right to solicit advice. It's actually, we inherited this from the British. For example, Param can give me the details here because all solicitor subjects are very civil in nature. For example, if you want to practice criminal law, you will never have to give the solicitor's exam and you could never become a solicitor in criminal law. So I think Param can speak more about what exactly a solicitor does.
Okay, okay. Yeah, Param, can you?
Okay, so to become a solicitor, you need to give a special exam for that, which is called the solicitor's exam. For that, you need to sign your articles like you do in CA for 3 years under solicitor. Out of those 3 years, 2 years you work with him, you intern under him, and you learn everything that he has to offer. Post those 2 years, for about 9 months, generally, you prepare and you prepare for this exam, which is considered to be the toughest exam that's there. And once you give the exam and once you pass, you're certified to be a solicitor. In
Okay,
essence, a solicitor and an advocate does the same thing, but a solicitor is a much more super qualified specialization that civil lawyers generally prefer to take.
okay, okay. Cool. So I think I'm getting a nice understanding of what you all do and how you all are different. Um, if anybody else has any more questions, please ask. We're almost at the end of our webinar. So the next question that I have is kind of a personal question, and I ask it to Param first. What has been your most memorable?
I'm sorry, I
I
can't hear
don't
you.
think we got that. Your voice.
Param, can you hear me, Param?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. So what has been your most memorable moment professionally?
Professionally, my most memorable moment was at my previous law firm, where I was representing this old family in acquiring a piece of land, and it was not a big transaction, but it was much more closer to the heart because when I finally closed the deal after a lot of haggling and a lot of fighting, I got a very nice letter from my clients saying that they appreciated everything that I'd done for them. So that felt.
Awesome. Cool. Um, Anandini, if you can hear me, can you talk about your most memorable moment professionally?
Yeah, definitely. So, I started interning with my current boss when I was in my third year of law school. So that was 3 full years of interning. And a lot of the times I would be sitting in court, and there'd be someone in court who had been arrested for something, and they were sent to jail purely because they couldn't afford a lawyer, and there's a severe shortage of public defenders in our country.
Mhm.
So that always bothered me that someone was in jail not because they were supposed to be there, but because of economic reasons or stuff like that. So I remember the year I graduated, I was sitting in court, and of course now I was an advocate, and there was this young boy who was brought and was accused of stealing something, and he didn't have a lawyer. And the judge looked around asking if any of the lawyers sitting in court would take up his matter for free, because I think even the judge felt he was a really young person and he shouldn't be sent to jail because sometimes that can have an adverse effect.
Okay.
So I remember, like, in the first second, wishing that some lawyer would take up the case, and then realizing that now I was in a position to do so. So
Okay.
I think that was my best moment. I did take up the case, I did get him bail, and subsequently I've tried my level best to do as many pro bono matters as I can.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, actually, that's a great part about your job, right? That you can actually help, help people who are actually innocent, because a lot of people in jail are actually innocent for something that they didn't do. It's just that their trials are pending or they can't afford a lawyer, right?
Yeah, so it's not so much about innocent or guilt because, like I said earlier, everyone is entitled to a legal defense. For example, a lot of the times the problem is that someone may be guilty, but if they're guilty of a petty offense, sometimes the punishment for that offense, the maximum punishment, is a couple of months. And because that person doesn't have a lawyer who's telling a judge that, the process is very slow, he ends up being in jail for a year without his trial even beginning. So
Okay.
that is very unjust. So it's not so much wanting to help innocent people. It's just wanting to ensure that there is a due process and that there is a semblance of justice in the system.
Right. Okay. Okay. So, what is the scope for changing your career once you take up law? Like supposing you take up law and you graduate and then you realize that, I don't want to become a lawyer. Are any of your friends who have studied law with you are doing something outside of law? Param, can you answer that?
Sure. So the most common thing that most people do post law is they do their CA and they become chartered accountants. I have a couple of friends who also post law did a science degree and and went for engineering. Then I have a couple of others who learned the law and then joined their dads in their businesses so they got a better understanding of how it actually works. And quite a
Okay.
few, if not most, who quit, they start their own startups with whatever unique ventures or ideas they have, and they use law as a support with what they want to do.
Okay. Anandini, would you like to elaborate on that?
So yeah, I think a law is a very general professional degree. In
Mhm.
fact, I'm sure Param remembers in law school we are taught this Latin maxim which says, ignorance of fact can be excused, but ignorance of law cannot. And basically, what it implies is that every citizen of a country is expected to know the law of that country. So yeah, a law degree is definitely beneficial to any person. A lot of the time, students who are indecisive or who are not sure about what they want to do opt to do a law degree because it doesn't close any doors for you. So I in fact have a lot of friends who've done a law degree and then had careers completely unrelated. Like one of my close friends studied law, and immediately after graduating, she worked with a sports law firm for a while. And now she deals completely with sports, and there's no semblance of law in her career anymore. So
Okay.
it's very much possible.
Okay. 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 Cool. Thanks a lot. Okay. So, guys, one last question. We're almost done. This one's for you, Param, first. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
5 years from now, a long time, but need to plan. So 5 years from now, either I will be in a very very senior position in the company I'm working in, or I'll be a junior partner or a partner to be at a law firm.
Okay. Okay. I hope you get there sooner rather than later.
Thank you.
And Anandini, what about you?
Yeah, so maybe this is a little idealistic because 5 years is not that long a time for me. But I'm hoping there are no criminal law firms in India. We have corporate and civil law firms, but criminal litigation is mostly chamber practice where you work under a senior lawyer and then you have your own independent practice. But I'm hoping that 5 years from now, I could at least be at the threshold of starting a good criminal law firm in India.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Thanks a lot. So Anandini and Param and Janvi, who's not here anymore, like she's gone off. Thanks a lot for participating in this webinar. And I hope the viewers got to learn something new. And yeah, and I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I did. One last thing for the viewers, just below the video on your screen and below the ask a question tab, there is a small form, okay, in which you can give your feedback about this webinar. So it would be great if you could fill up that form. Okay, and I'm gonna sign out now. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.